Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. In Afghanistan, local officials say the Taliban have captured another regional capital, Alam, which is just 50 kilometers away from Kabul. They have now taken half of the country's 34 provincial capitals in a lightning offensive just weeks before the US is set to officially end its two-decade war. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has reiterated that no hostile forces would be allowed to undermine the friendship between Pakistan and China. He made the comment during a meeting with Chinese Ambassador Non Rong in Islamabad. The meeting comes a day after Pakistan's National Security Advisor said Afghan and Indian intelligence agencies were trying to target China's investment in Pakistan. Indian forces have martyred two civilians in the occupied Kashmir's Kulgam district. The occupying forces blasted a building using chemical substances during a so-called operation in the Mir Bazar area. Several people were also wounded after Indian troops fired bullets and pellets on civilians protesting the brutal act. Well, those were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now the news in detail. In Afghanistan, local officials say the Taliban have captured another key city, Alam, the capital of central Logar province. It is just 50 kilometers away from the capital Kabul. More in this report.
Afghanistan is on the precipice and its security forces have all but collapsed after being battered by the Taliban's onslaught they were unable to halt. They have now taken half of the country's 34 provincial capitals just weeks before the US is set to officially end its two-decade war. Taliban fighters have also detained veteran militia commander Mohammad Ismail Khan after seizing the western city of Herat. To add to the country's problems, the US and Britain have announced plans to evacuate their nationals in Kabul. Meanwhile, Pakistan has announced that it will relax its visa policy for journalists and media workers stranded in Afghanistan. Moreover, the UK Defence Secretary has warned that the Taliban's resurgence would create a breeding ground for extremists that threaten the world. He also criticized the US troop withdrawal, saying the international community would probably pay the consequences of the pullout in this way.
Pakistan says it is deeply concerned at the lack of progress in the Afghan peace process. The Foreign Office says Pakistan has facilitated the key milestones achieved in the process, including the US-Taliban peace deal and initiation of intra-Afghan negotiations. A Foreign Office spokesperson said Pakistan attaches great importance to the Troika Plus mechanism. He expressed hope that the Troika Plus meeting will facilitate the resumption of intra-Afghan talks. In a press briefing, Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry also highlighted India's atrocities in occupied Kashmir. He said India continues to deny access to human rights organizations to visit the valley despite its claims of normalcy. For more on this, we are joined by Lieutenant General retired named Khaled Lodhi from Islamabad. Sir, thank you for joining us. Mr. Lodhi, virtually every country, including Pakistan, have said that they will not support a government imposed through military force. If that is the case, what will these victories by the Taliban achieve?
Actually, what most of the world is saying, they are talking about the capture of Kabul, if I have gathered properly. Because as far as doing it with force is concerned, that is happening anyway. And let me say one thing, being a general and having some experience of fighting, this much of area in this small lapse of time cannot be captured militarily. Militarily, it is illogical. So actually, these victories, I would term them as political victories. They are talking to people, people probably were fed up from US occupation and the Afghan present government. They want to get rid of them, and they have actually welcomed Taliban. So it is all a political takeover, and if anybody takes it as a military takeover, I don't agree with it, because militarily it is just not possible. Even if you have 3 to 4 gunmen in any city, you will take a whole day to capture it. So if they are capturing town after town, city after city, it is with the connivance of the locals, with the support of the locals, and nothing else.
Right. Mr. Lodhi, the UK has said today that it may send back troops on the ground in Afghanistan if it had reason to believe that the Al-Qaeda returns. We have seen reports from the Pentagon already claiming that the Taliban are still connected to Al-Qaeda. Are we looking at a reversal or withdrawal?
Actually, if we look at the history, and if we keep track of what Taliban had said in the past and whether they have adhered to whatever they say, I think they have come up to their commitments always. Even in this latest agreement with Americans, these are the Americans who violated the agreement, and Taliban have not yet abrogated the agreement or not even violated it. So if they are saying that we will not allow our soil to be used by any terrorist group against any country, then if I have to believe anyone, I will believe Taliban. So I think this is a misplaced perception by UK that Al-Qaeda is there or they have any connection. Keeping a connection, you cannot stop. But allowing them to be used against anyone, that they have, they have promised. So let us hope that they live up to their promises. They never promised that they will not have any contacts with anyone. If they later on make a coalition government and it becomes a free country, so they will have all the rights to have communication, connections with anyone they feel like. Yes, there should be no action from their soil, emanating from their soil, against any country. That they will ensure, in my assessment.
Right. Mr. Lodhi, Pakistan's Prime Minister has not minced words, calling out Washington's change in South Asian partners. Do you believe the situation in Afghanistan has the power to reshape geostrategic and international alliances?
Actually, we all know that, especially big powers, they always pursue their interests irrespective of whatever is happening on ground. So my own assessment is that because it is in the interest of America to keep Afghanistan in turmoil and to keep peace away from Afghanistan, so I don't think they will change their direction very soon or very clearly. My assessment is that they will keep pursuing even after complete takeover, even after a coalition government, even after a grand jirga, even after all the Afghan people, they rally around Afghan Taliban. America will keep its policy in the direction where China cannot come in this area, where China cannot invest, where there is no peace, and CPEC is affected, and BRI is affected, and Russians cannot go to warm waters. These are their enduring interests. So they will never give up, even if they say apparently under the tables they will keep on working against the peace of Afghanistan. I'm very sure about it.
Naeem Khaled Lodhi, thank you for speaking to Indus News. And now we're moving on. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has reiterated that no hostile forces would be allowed to undermine the friendship between Pakistan and China. He made the comment during a meeting with Chinese Ambassador Non Rong in Islamabad. The meeting comes a day after Pakistan's National Security Advisor said Afghan and Indian intelligence agencies want to target China's investment in Pakistan. The two also discussed cooperation in trade and bilateral ties. Khan reiterated Pakistan's resolve to support efforts for a negotiated political settlement in Afghanistan. China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson appreciated the efforts by Pakistan in investigating the Dasu terrorist attack. In Pakistan's South Waziristan district, the army has killed one terrorist and apprehended another in an intelligence-based operation. The military's media wing said a soldier embraced martyred during an exchange of fire in the Sararoga area. It said the captured terrorist revealed the plan of a raid on the military post. The media wing added that the army is determined to eliminate the menace of terrorism. It said sacrifices of the brave soldiers further strengthened the army's resolve. Indian forces have martyred 2 civilians in the occupied Kashmir's Kulgam district. The occupying forces attacked a building using chemical substances during a so-called operation in the Mir Bazar area. Several people were also wounded after Indian troops fired bullets and pellets on civilians protesting the brutal act. Meanwhile, Indian authorities also detained a person under the black law for shooting a video last month. In the footage, an elderly woman was seen being run over and killed by an army vehicle in Bandipur. In India, opposition Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has accused Twitter of attacking democracy after it blocked accounts of top party leaders. The accounts were locked after they tweeted a photo of the parents of a minor girl who was raped and murdered by a Hindu priest in New Delhi. The Congress party accused Twitter of acting on orders from the ruling BJP party, but Twitter said the photo violated their privacy rules, which were enforced judiciously and impartially. Brazil has reported more than 1,100 daily deaths from COVID-19 and nearly 40,000 cases. Globally, the death tally has exceeded 4.3 million with more than 205 million infections. Details in this report.
The Delta variant that first emerged in India continues to devastate the world. In its weekly update, the World Health Organization has warned that the Delta variant has the potential of increased risks for reinfections. The organization called on governments to cooperate for virus origin studies and to depoliticize the situation. Meanwhile, the United States has authorized booster doses of Pfizer and Moderna vaccines for people with compromised immune systems. Over in the south, Mexico posted a record number of overnight cases. In Australia, authorities are mulling to deploy more soldiers in Sydney to enforce lockdown rules after it reported record cases.
We had, unfortunately, 390 cases of community transmission. Some are still under investigation, but at least 60 of those have been infectious in the community. And I anticipate, given the large number of cases we've had in the last few days, that unfortunately this trend will continue for at least the next few days. So it means all of us have to work harder to make sure we stay at home and follow the rules.
The situation in Southeast Asia is turning bleaker by the day. Sri Lankan authorities renewed warnings to the government to impose a lockdown after authorities rejected the measure. The Philippines has extended a ban on travelers from India and 9 other countries over the Delta variant concerns. In Thailand, volunteer medics are signing up to save patients' lives as the country reports record cases.
When I signed up to be a volunteer, my job was to be a driver to bring infected patients to the hospital, but it has changed a lot. Now I have to perform first aid, provide oxygen, or even do CPR on people, so they can live for a bit longer to be able to make it to the hospital.
Vietnam's government is facing a tense situation over rising cases and a shortage of vaccines, as the country saw another day of near-record cases.
In Pakistan, COVID-19 has claimed another 79 lives overnight. The Health Ministry says the death toll is over 24,000. The ministry said more than 4,600 people tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours. The virus has infected more than 1 million people, while over 970,000 have recovered. According to the NCOC, the positivity rate of infections has declined to 7.7%, while the country has administered more than 41 million doses of vaccines so far. In Pakistan, at least 3 people have been killed in a car accident on Hazara motorway near Abbottabad. Rescue officials say injured and dead bodies have been shifted to a nearby hospital. Police said the family belonged to Faisalabad and were on their way to Mansehra city. They cited over speeding as the cause of the fatal accident. More news stories coming up after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. At least 6 people, including a child, have been killed in a mass shooting in Plymouth City in southwest England. Police believe the suspect shot himself as well, while the incident is not terror-related. They described the shooting as a serious firearms incident. Authorities said the situation is contained and investigations are underway. In Thailand, police fired tear gas, canisters and rubber bullets at demonstrators after hundreds defied a ban on gatherings to rally in central Bangkok. The protesters were attempting to march to the Prime Minister's residence to demand his resignation with the handling of the coronavirus crisis. Police shot tear gas from a highway in response to demonstrators who tried to pull down containers that were being used as roadblocks. A youth-led protest movement, which drew broad support last year, is regaining momentum, coinciding with the country's worst coronavirus outbreak yet. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed an explosive-laden drone launched by the Houthis towards southern Saudi Arabia. In a statement, the coalition said the drone was aimed at Khamis Mashhad city. It said Yemeni rebels deliberately and systematically target civilian infrastructure. The coalition said they are taking operational measures to foil attacks on civilian areas in the kingdom. In Egypt, at least 8 security personnel have been killed, with 6 others injured in a roadside bomb blast in the northern part of Sinai. The troops were in an armored vehicle when the bomb went off. In a statement, the ISIS militant group claimed responsibility for the attack. In a similar attack last month, ISIS militants ambushed a checkpoint in Sheikh Zayed town, killing at least 5 troops. Violence and instability in northern Sinai has intensified after the 2013 military coup that removed elected President Mohammed Morsi. In Lebanon, demonstrators have blocked roads across the country after the central bank ended the subsidies on fuel. Police confronted the protesters who gathered near the house of central bank's governor. Earlier, the government clashed with the central bank, saying prices must not change and subsidies must continue. The petroleum importers demanded clarification with warnings of huge fuel shortages due to inadequate supply. The loss of fuel subsidies will open a new phase of the financial crisis that has sunk the value of Lebanon's currency by 90% since 2019. In China, at least 21 people have died, with 4 others missing after heavy rains lashed central Hubei province. 5 cities in the province have declared rain red alerts. State media reported the torrential rain forced the evacuation of nearly 6,000 people in Suzhou city. The Ministry of Emergency Management said rescue crews have been dispatched to the worst affected areas. In July, the torrential rains and floods killed 302 people in Henan province. In Turkey, the death toll from severe floods and mudslides that struck the Black Sea region has risen to 27. Authorities say one other person is reported missing. The Disaster and Emergency Management Presidency said at least 15 died in Kastamonu, with 10 more bodies recovered. Meanwhile, in Japan, almost 3 million people have been instructed to evacuate due to heavy rains. The country's meteorological agency has issued heavy rain and mudslide warnings in Kyushu and Hiroshima. In Greece, firefighters continue to tackle blazes in northern Evia Island, where over 50,000 hectares have been damaged. Nearly 700 Greek and foreign crews are also operating in the western Peloponnese Peninsula to control flare-ups. More in this report.
Wildfires are wreaking havoc across the globe, from Africa to the North Pole. In Greece, a forest fire on Evia has razed the land around villages, swallowing up pine trees and consuming scores of beehives. Meanwhile, massive blazes fueled by extreme heat waves and record droughts are burning in Russia's Siberia on a record scale. These are reported to be even larger than all others around the world combined. In Algeria, 22 people have been arrested, suspected to be behind the most devastating wildfires in the country's history, claiming at least 69 lives. President Abdulmajid Tebboune has called the fires a disaster and urged the preservation of national unity.
An enormous fire. In 1 minute, it started to burn everywhere in all the villages of Kabyle region. The people of Algeria are alone. We have received nothing from the government except threats. People are acting together as one, and we have received aid from everywhere.
In Canada, wildfires have burned over 36,000 hectares of bush in the British Columbian region. Meanwhile, blazes in Bolivia have blackened more than 200,000 hectares in the agriculture area of Santa Cruz. Firefighters have been working for over 17 days to stop the fire from spreading to the dense forest areas.
It has been 17 days of work for the firefighters. In the province, 121,000 hectares have been affected, but 90% are pastures and the fires have not yet entered the dense forest areas. The work is to prevent the fire from advancing even more.
In Italy, multiple cities have released red alerts for high temperatures for consecutive days. At least 3 people have died in the country due to extensive wildfires raging in several southern regions.
Climate change scientists consider methane to be a major driver of global warming. It is invisible and odorless, but its emissions are responsible for 30% of warming on a global scale since the pre-industrial era. This report has the details.
Methane is the main component of natural gas and is over 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide in the first 20 years after emission. It is produced as a byproduct of the oil and gas industry. Methane is the major component of natural gas and, if captured, can be used as a fuel for power plants and domestic purposes. Its concentration in the atmosphere is currently increasing at a rate of around 1% per year. And experts say tackling methane emissions is the strongest lever they have to slow climate change over the next 25 years.
There is an industrial area here using a lot of methane. Why we have to put it in the sky and contribute to the destruction of our climate? So there must be more rational ways in year 2021 to use methane instead of venting in the atmosphere.
While governments around the world do not usually report leak rate figures, scientists can estimate the leak rate by looking at reported emissions and reported production. A Clean Air Task Force official says it took the images of more than 200 sites across Europe over 3 months. He said most of these sites have been leaking emissions in some way or another. And on the second visit to the same sites revealed the authorities did nothing to fix it and the leakage was still there.
Whether it's a leak or some sort of operational practice, most of these emissions can be reduced at negative or marginal costs to the company. For instance, when you look at the video of the rusted hole in the tank from Italy, you see that could have been detected with the leak detection and repair program. And then the company could have gone and fixed the tank.
Thanks to rapidly advancing technology, a growing fleet of satellites is now aiming to help close the valve on methane by identifying such leaks from space. Scientists from a European technology startup have been able to pinpoint the location, potency, and size of leaks around the world via satellite imagery.
And now it's time to take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Wall Street stocks have climbed following a boost in tech-related stocks and strong recovery in corporate earnings. Markets bolstered after Disney reported strong earnings. All the major bourses traded at a fraction higher. Meanwhile, the oil prices dropped over slow crude supplies. For the weather updates, we have Raja Sarosh with us.
Thank you. We're going to start with Abu Dhabi, where weather is expected to be extremely hot, with temperatures rising to 43 degrees centigrade. While in Amsterdam, temperatures are at 22 degrees centigrade with few clouds rolling in the sky. If we head to Ankara, there is a clear weather with temperatures at 29 degrees centigrade. Moving down under to Auckland, the temperatures are chilly at 15 degrees centigrade with layer of clouds covering the sky. Now, if you're traveling to Bangkok, there will be an expected thunderstorm with temperatures around 32 degrees centigrade. In Beijing, temperatures are at 29 degrees centigrade with clouds completely veiling the sun. While in Beirut, you will experience sunny weather with temperatures at 32 degrees centigrade. And Berliners will experience temperatures at 30 degrees centigrade under partly cloudy sky. Now heading to Cairo, the hot sun will be out with temperatures at 39 degrees centigrade. Down under in Canberra, the temperatures are at 16 degrees centigrade with cloudy sky. In Islamabad, temperatures are at 34 degrees centigrade accompanied by afternoon thunderstorm. And while in Jakarta, temperatures are steady at 32 degrees centigrade, also with thunderstorms in the forecast. That's all for now. Back to you.
Thank you, Saroj. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.